I'd like you to think about all the property in San Antonio that is owned by church organizations and how much of that property is underutilized. What would happen if that property was instead used to meet needs in our communities? And how can we help make that happen? Today, congregations around the country are getting creative and turning their unused property into small business space, daycares, and even housing to meet the needs of their communities. In San Antonio, there are over 3,000 acres of underutilized church-owned property. To put that in perspective, if 50 families can be served by affordable housing on just 1.5 acres, then that represents 100,000 families that could otherwise be served by that property. So then why aren't churches already doing this? Well, generally churches aren't in the real estate business. They want to do the most good with their property, but they need a partner. And that's why we created Good Acres. Good Acres is a volunteer coalition of faith, nonprofit, real estate, and community professionals. We help churches maximize the community impact of their property, and we do it in 3 ways. First, we help the congregation and the community develop a vision for the property based on the needs of the community. Second, we provide technical assistance and bring together all the necessary partners to help facilitate the project. And third, we help finance the project through public, private, and nonprofit sources, and by investing directly into the project from our raised capital. And we already have a proof of concept and a pipeline of future projects. In 2015, we partnered with the Park Community Church to produce the Impact Guild, a 6,000 square foot co-working space in Beacon Hill that now hosts over 120 entrepreneurs and small businesses and dozens of community events annually. In this last November, we partnered with the City of San Antonio and List San Antonio to co-host a summit of local churches, which produced a pipeline of 21 potential projects. These are local churches just waiting for a partner like Good Acres. Just imagine how many needs could be served just from these pipeline projects alone. Today, we're asking for $150,000 to serve this pipeline. This investment will allow us to hire a program manager to help further develop the program, to initiate up to 4 projects a year, and to allow us to be profitable by year 3. Our revenue comes from a share of raised project capital, project fees, and a share of the lease revenue from completed projects. We project that by year 4, 40% of our income will be through earned revenue, and that will continue to increase as we continue to do more projects. In a post-COVID world, the need for creative solutions is greater than ever before. Underutilized church assets can help serve this need, and we can help those congregations do it. With the seed funding of $150,000 to launch this program, we can be on our way towards activating those 3,000 acres for good. We invite you to take this journey with us. Thank you. So, a large part of the initiative is also in bringing together churches to talk about and talk through the concept of leveraging their underutilized spaces. And what that looks like is monthly gatherings and, the costs associated with that, and sometimes bringing in additional speakers to also talk to these audiences. As we mentioned, congregations around the country are doing it, so we want to leverage that and bring many of those other congregations and people who are doing these projects to come and talk to our own cohort of congregations here in San Antonio. But also, the funding that is being raised would also be part of that raised capital that would be reinvested into the project. So as we are working with a congregation and finding that, okay, well, we need to do some renderings, we need to do some studies, we need to do some data analysis to understand exactly what are the economics and the needs of that area. There are costs associated with that, and we want to be able to invest that into the project to be able to pull out that necessary data to be able to deliver the best possible project for that community. So each project is going to be different. Some projects, depending on the amount of investment, both of time and resources of Good Acres, it might make sense to actually become an equity partner in that deal. In most cases, we might see ourselves being more of a kind of fee basis. If we are going to be investing some of that capital into the project, and we're going to actually help manage that asset or manage that tenant and be a more integral part of the success of that project, then it would look probably more like either an equity or a kind of ground lease or leasehold interest that could be long-term. Whether or not that's in perpetuity, that's probably unlikely. There would probably be some kind of cap or some kind of term associated with that, or some kind of, if it's an equity deal, then maybe there's a refinance and a buyout at some point. But essentially, it'll really come down to what are the specifics and what are the goals of that project, specifically if it's meant to produce revenue back to the church so that they can be more sustainable, then that might look a little different. But there's a lot of different tools we can use to make sure that we're hitting all the goals of every project. And one of them might be a long-term relationship with that congregation. I think it really depends on, again, that project. In light of the situation that we're in, we talk about the needs that being greater than ever, the need for creative solutions, and what might that look like? Right now, we're trying to distance each other, which means the density of people in one space maybe doesn't make as much sense. Maybe there's a need for more overflow spaces. Maybe there's a need for more daycare centers. That way you have fewer children in one space. And so that creates a greater need for space, which creates a greater need for this program and the underutilized assets that churches control. And so what does that look like in terms of, okay, well, helping them not only develop the space, but what are also the needs to make sure that we are being responsible in terms of safety of the public and helping them meet not only their economic needs through that project and the community goals, but also make sure that we're meeting safety goals and keeping our community as healthy and safe as possible. And in that way, we're also a partner in that we can provide that technical assistance and provide resource partners that can help inform that. Because some churches, even during this time, they feel overwhelmed by that. They feel like they're not the best people to be driving some of the decisions. But in Good Acres, they can find a resource partner that can help connect them with everything they would need to make the right decisions for their community and their congregation.